We start with a developing story out of Tampa, Florida, where Detroit Lions player Terrion Arnold is behind bars tonight. Arnold facing a long list of felony charges that could cost him his entire football career. Good evening. I'm David Andrews. The defensive star made his initial court appearance today in connection to an armed robbery and kidnapping investigation. Arnold turned himself into police last night. A judge ruled in court today that the Lions cornerback will remain in custody without bond until a pretrial detention hearing on Monday. Investigators say the case involves a February 4th incident when 7 people allegedly took part in a targeted armed robbery and kidnapping of 3 teenage men. After more than $250,000 in property was reported stolen from an Airbnb in Largo, Florida. Police allege co-defendants held the victims at gunpoint, assaulted and robbed them, and live streamed the attack to Arnold while he and others gave directions in a group chat. Arnold's attorney stated in court today that his client absolutely denies all allegations, pushing for his release. But the court declared the allegations too severe to allow bail ahead of Monday's proceedings. Authorities describe Arnold as the ringleader of this plot. Arnold is facing 8 felony charges. That includes 4 counts of armed robbery, 4 counts of kidnapping. If convicted on all charges, he could face up to life in prison. In a statement sent to News 10, the Detroit Lions said, quote, "We are aware of the legal situation regarding Terrion Arnold. We will not comment at this time out of respect for the ongoing legal process," end quote.